let's jump into this, guys. I ranked tight end rooms, and this was super hard to do. This is just SEC tight end rooms. If you have any complaints, leave them, but at least give me a justification of why you have them. Guys, for that Texas and Oklahoma video where I said Texas had more talent and I gave reasons why and even broke down the rooms a little bit, all I heard in the comment section was Jackson Arnold is better than Quinn Ewers is 1. 2, you're stupid. 3, the blue chip ratio favors Oklahoma. It does by 1% until you account for transfers, which I think you should, because guess what? Transfers play, especially Isaiah Ballin, Amari Niblack, Matthew Golden, Silas Bold. Those guys are big parts of this team. Dominic Williams is going to be a big part for Oklahoma, so you 100% should account for them. And when you do, Texas is a more talented team. Now, I say that because this is super hard. There's basically no big returning guys here. There are some good returning tight ends, but there's no Brock Bowers, even though I do have Georgia still ranked number 1 in the tight end room rankings. And again, I've done this for quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. This tight end will do offensive line at some point, and we'll get through them all before the start of the season. Oscar Delp comes back, 24 receptions, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns. This guy, you guys will know. And by the way, Oscar Delp is a freak. He's next up in line. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. I think he could have 80% of what Brock Bowers had last year, or the year before at Georgia. He was hurt last year, and that's when Oscar Delp got a shot, and he was very good. Benjamin Urasek came from Stanford. Texas was interested. They chose Amari Niblack instead. This guy's a better blocker than Amari Niblack, not as good of a pass catcher. In 4 years, he has 1,342 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then this guy has an awesome name, but basically no stats. 2 receptions, 9 yards, and 1 touchdowns for Lawson Lucky. I went 3 deep here. There's some teams with like 5 or 6 guys that could compete for the 3rd spot. So I did my best on narrowing it down to 3 for each room. Number 1 is Georgia, though. I think they're going to have another good year. I think Oscar Delp is a NFL tight end, and that's why I have him ranked 1. Once I get to 4, guys, I'll jump into your comments, but we're going to take this at least 4 at a time before I jump into comments. Number 2 is LSU. It gets hard, guys. I think, to me, UGA is clearly number 1. Then I think from like 2 to, 8, 7, you can debate, and then there's a fall-off after that. But number 2 for me is LSU. I think Mason Taylor's really damn good. 74 receptions, 762 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And this is where you can get angry at me because it does fall off like in the room. I think Mark Markaway. I think it's Mac. 3 receptions, 16 yards, 1 touchdown. Not that much there at the backup tight end. Honestly, it's this guy. I'm high on this guy. He's a really high 4-star recruit. He's a freshman, Trey'Dez Green. I think he ends up being the number 2 tight end at the end of the year, and I think he plays in with Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor, again, fantastic. You could argue he's probably the best tight end in the SEC. Number 3, and this was hard again, Arkansas. Luke Haas, 16 receptions, 253 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 games. He got hurt. He broke his collarbone last year. He was on pace to be the offensive rookie of the year, or freshman of the year in the SEC. I really like him. If he stays healthy, could be the number 1 tight end in all of the SEC, could be the number 2, 3 tight end in the country. Really good player. Then they bring in a transfer from North Texas with 2 years. He has 37 receptions, 484 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And for Key Gums, he's a big guy, man. He's really big. He's a decent player as well. We'll see how it translates from North Texas to the SEC, but I do like him. And then redshirt freshman who played pretty well in Luke Haas's absence last year. 11 receptions, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Tyrus Washington. Yeah, two of his touchdowns, or his only 2 touchdowns, came in the Ole Miss game. So I have them at number 3. And then Texas fans are wondering where I would have Texas. This is where we break in my Longhorns. They're number 4. The reason they are not higher, I like Amari Niblack, but it is a different scheme for him from a Tom Rees scheme to a Steve Sarkisian scheme. Do I think he fits better? Yes, I do. Gunnar Helm, I think, ends up being the starter, though. I like Gunnar Helm, but he's not proven. Neither of these guys are super proven. All of the rest of the guys I've named for you are proven with semi-unproven backup. So this is why I went 2 semi-unproven guys here versus 3 proven. That's why I went with these guys in fourth. Gunnar Helm, 14 receptions, 192 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. He played a lot better than I thought he would. I called him out before the year and said I didn't think he was an NFL draft pick. And if he was, he's 6th or 7th round. I honestly think he could probably be a 3rd or 4th round NFL draft pick. I really like him. He's a good blocker. He's got good hands. He's more of a Jason Witten type. He's not going to stretch the field. That's what this guy is for. Amari Niblack, 20 receptions, 327 yards, and 4 touchdowns at Bama. And then 4-star freshman Jordan Washington, really like him. Basically, he was a basketball guy that finally is just full-on football, so I expect him to get a lot better in a very short amount of time. I have Texas at number 4, and let's jump into your comments. Will Johnson shut down Isaiah Bond in the Rose Bowl? Yeah, he did, but he also had Jalen Milroe at quarterback. Quinn Ewers is much better. I said it's hard to see Texas choose other programs, especially out-of-state schools. Texas kids. Yeah, that does suck. I'm not going to lie to you. It does. It hurts my heart to see that, but it is what it is. I can't dictate, and you're never going to be able to keep 10 out of 10. Like your top 10 prospects in the state of Texas, you're not going to keep all 10. I think at best you could probably keep 5. That's on like a great year. I think on an average year, you need to keep 30 to 40%, honestly. How do you think Texas is going to be in the SEC? A prominent name, or like Florida, Ole Miss, good year, the next year, mediocre? I think Texas this year will be 10-2. After that, I have no idea with the transfer portal and everything. It's kind of more of a year-to-year thing now with the transfer portal, but it'll be very interesting. I think we're in that upper echelon, honestly. I think it's Georgia, Alabama, us. I think Oklahoma at some point will probably get up there, but those are the top 3 right now, in my opinion. Caleb Odom, freshman, Bama tight end. He is at wide receiver 5, Adam. He was converted to wide receiver. That is why he's not in my rank. He will not be in my rankings for this. Helm looking really good right now ahead of Black. Amari Niblack, yeah, he is ahead of him. And yeah, this that is 100% true. He would have been a good tight end, but again, he is converted to wide receiver. That's at least what I read on basically every Bama thing when I was doing wide receiver. I put him in the wide receiver rankings. If you want to go watch that video, it's on the SEC channel. Now let's jump back into this. Number 5, I have South Carolina. And I'm honestly shocked I have them here, guys, because when I jumped in, I was like, their wide receivers are terrible. They have a converted quarterback, Luke Doty, playing wide receiver. Well, guess what? This guy's pretty damn good. Joshua Simon is a grown man. He's in his 6th year at South Carolina. He has over 1,400 receiving yards in his 5 years, 4 at Western Kentucky, and he kills everyone else in touchdown production. Even if you go by a game-to-game basis, he kills them. He has 17 touchdowns in his career. He is a good player, and it probably is going to benefit him a lot, seeing as he's 24 years old going up against a bunch of younger guys, especially in the SEC, because a lot of good players, especially linebackers and safeties in the SEC, go to the NFL after 3 years. So he's in his 6th year going up against freshmen, sophomore, some juniors, not many seniors. Yes, I think they deserve to be this high on the list. And then they bring in another guy that's good. He just did it at a smaller school in Ball State, but 46 receptions, 498 yards, and 5 touchdowns for Brady Hunt. And then that's it, guys. If one of them gets hurt, they're in trouble, and that's why they're not higher on the list, honestly. Nick Exkins, or Exness. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Doesn't matter. He's not going to get much playing time. He's a special teams player. He's literally never had a catch in his life at South Carolina. So 2, I think, good tight ends, and then after that it falls off. That's why I have him at 5. If they had another guy there who actually had any production, I probably would have bumped them up a little higher, but they are number 5. Number 6, Ole Miss. And the reason why I have them at 6 and not ahead of South Carolina is Joshua Simon. If Joshua Simon was on this team and you flipped this guy, Caden Prierskorn, I believe is how you pronounce his name, then I would probably have him flipped. But he had 30 receptions, 449 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They also brought in, Virginia Tech transfer Daquan Wright. 28 receptions, 366 yards, but no touchdowns. We'll see if he can up that at all, if he can get any in the Ole Miss offense. And then they have a 3-star freshman in Dylan Hipp. I like the 1-2 punch there. Again, it kind of falls off after that, but I like the 1-2 punch. And we will get to number 7. Number 7 is going to be Texas A&M. Listen, this could be a lot higher because I like Donovan Green, but he was hurt all of last year, so you only have his freshman season to go off of, and he was a really highly touted kid coming out of high school, and he ended up as a freshman with 22 receptions, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They also bring in a transfer out of Fresno State and Trey Watson, 378 yards, 4 touchdowns, 38 receptions. Pretty good numbers there, but again at Fresno State. And then this guy, 4-year player at Purdue, 52 receptions, 465 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Garrett Miller. So the reason I don't have them higher is Donovan Green missed a whole year. I don't know how he's going to recover from his injury. If he recovers well, this can definitely be bumped up. If Trey Watson plays just like he did at Fresno State, they can be bumped up. Garrett Miller, I expect to produce. I mean, Purdue's not in a bad conference, especially if you're tied in, so I expect him to put up decent numbers, but honestly, I dropped them this low because I don't know what to expect from Donovan Green coming off a serious injury. So that's why I have them at 7. Number 8 is Oklahoma. They bring in Bauer Sharp, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, 29 receptions from Southeast Louisiana. Guys, it kind of what I just said for Trey Watson at A&M. This guy's coming over from Fresno State. This guy's coming over from Southeast Louisiana. I have no opinions on what he's going to do at Oklahoma. None. You could tell me he was great. You can tell me he was terrible. You could tell me a bunch of stuff, guys. I have no idea how he's going to do at Oklahoma. Next up for them, we have Jake Roberts, who I do like. He played at Baylor and North Texas. He is linked up back with his offensive coordinator in Seth Luttrell, who is the offense coordinator at Oklahoma now. He was the offense coordinator at North Texas. 66 receptions, 772 yards, and 4 touchdowns at North Texas and Baylor. We'll see how he does at Oklahoma. And then 4-star tight end Devon Mitchell. If Bauer Sharp had come from anywhere that isn't a Southeast school, a Northwest school, yada, 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 I would have bumped him up higher. But the only guy I know about is Jake Roberts. So to me, you're a one-man band until Bauer Sharp proves otherwise. And number 9, I was shocked when I saw this. Number 9 is Alabama. They have, not much production here. C.J. Dupree, 22 receptions, 30 receptions at Maryland, 314 yards and 3 touchdowns. But last year at Alabama, he only had 11 receptions. So I don't know what to expect from him. Kalen DeBoer does utilize the tight end position, so I expect whoever the tight end to be, the number 1 tight end, to play well. Like 5 Adam mentioned Caleb Odom, but he's no longer a tight end there. He will be wide receiver. Now, if they convert him back to a tight end, I'd bump up this room. But he's listed as a wide receiver right now. Josh Cuevas, 4 receptions, 164 yards at Washington. He was their backup tight end. I'm trying to remember who the Washington tight end was. He was really good, though. He killed Texas in the bowl game. I was really impressed with him. So if they can use this guy like they used him, this could be bumped up. And then Robbie Oots, 8 receptions, 84 yards in 3 years. I expect nothing from that man. So right now, I have Bama at 9. A lot, like I said, after Texas, honestly, you could debate 5 through 9 up until this point, and you could debate it. Would not shock me at all where you rank them. This is really hard to do. Number 10 is Auburn. Rivaldo Fairweather, I like. He was at FIU for 3 years. First year at Auburn last year, had 38 receptions, 394 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I expect him to be a good player, especially again this year, especially under and in a Hugh Freeze offense. He utilizes the tight ends, especially in the run game. This guy's more of a pass catcher, though, than pass blocker. They also have Brandon Frazier. This guy's huge. He's 6'7", 4 receptions, 4 years, only 11 receptions in those 4 years, 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is definitely more of a blocker, not a pass catcher. And then Michael Riley, I think, could have a breakout year this year. In his freshman season last year, 2 receptions, 40 yards, and 1 touchdown. So we'll see what he does in his sophomore year. Let's jump back into your comments here before I get to number 11. In my opinion, I feel like Terrence Brooks was the worst corner we had last year. Do you think we improved there? Yes, I do. I don't think he was maybe he was. I don't know. But yes, I do think we improved. I think Javion Cole's a good player. I think Gavin Holmes is going to improve in his second year in the scheme. So yes, I do believe we improved. Western Kentucky football is legit. Western Kentucky football is legit. The Fresno State tight end, the Purdue tight end. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Westover, thank you. That's who it was for Washington last year. Yes, he impressed me a lot. He made a couple hard catches in that game as well. that one to keep the drive going down by his ankles was very important in that game. Cuevas, I don't know. Are you saying Cuevas is ass? I don't know. I don't know if that's what you're trying to say they're LFG or not, but yeah, I don't think he's that good. If that's what you're trying to say. Number 11, I have Florida. Arliss Boardingham last year, 26 receptions, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. Kind of in the same thing as Rivaldo Fairweather, both big guys, okay blockers, more pass catchers. And then these two guys were both freshmen last year in Hayden Hanson and Tony Livingston. Hayden Hanson, 12 receptions, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tony Livingston, 1 reception, 4 yards. There's talent here. There definitely is. This is one at the end of the year, you could tell me they jumped up to number 5 or 6 because there's a lot of talent. They just have no production. Number 12, let's see where I went here. I went Mississippi State. Sadu Traore from Arkansas State had 50 receptions, 655 yards, and 4 touchdowns in his time there. But he was injured all of last year, so he's yet to play for Mississippi State. But overall, that's pretty good at Arkansas State. And then you bring in the Ball brothers, not Ball twins. And no, I'm not talking Lonzo and LeVar and all those guys. I'm talking Cameron and Justin. Cameron played at Buffalo, 8 receptions, 82 yards over 2 years, so not much. And then Justin Ball, 22 receptions, 204 yards, and 1 touchdown at Vanderbilt 4 years. So if Sadu Traore is not 100% healthy, this could be worse than number 12. And this is it. This is where it drops off, honestly, guys. After 11, there's not much talent. Number 13, sorry. I went with Kentucky. Jordan Dingle comes back again for his 4th year, 3 years there, 34 receptions, 544 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Josh Caddis, 2 years there, 15 receptions, 233 yards, 15.45 yards per catch, so a pretty big play threat, 2 touchdowns. And then Kamari Anderson, only 11 yards receiving for him at Kentucky as a tight end, so not much there. He actually played on defense a little bit, so that tells you about that room. Number 14, this one might be able to jump up higher because I do like this guy, Brett Norfleet, 18 receptions, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I do have them ranked 14th, and this is why. Tyler Stevens from Buffalo. He came in last year, and he has 5 receptions and 49 yards. Jordan Harris, who was a freshman, and he mostly played special teams last year. Not really good for a third-string tight end. And like I said, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, guys. And number 15 is Tennessee. They lose their starting tight end, and they replace him with Holden Stays from Notre Dame. 16 receptions, 187 yards in 2 years there. And Miles Kitzelman from Bama, only 2 career receptions. Those are your 2 best tight ends. Not looking great. And Ethan Davis was a freshman last year, 2 receptions, 33 yards. This room is just a whole question mark. I don't know who's going to be your number 1. I don't know who's going to produce. You'll probably put up numbers because you're in a Josh Heupel offense, but this is not a good room. And then last but not least is Vanderbilt. And this is pretty funny. Their number 1 tight end, guys, is a former quarterback from Texas A&M and Eli Stowers. He also played at New Mexico State as a quarterback and tight end. He had 35 receptions and 366 yards at New Mexico State. And then they have Cole Spence, who has 0 receptions. They have Cameron Johnson, who has 10 receptions and 99 yards, and that rounds it out. Vanderbilt, like I said, between 11 to 15, it drops off and then drops off again after 15 because this is a bad room if you're relying on a former quarterback to be your tight end.